feeling as well as you can be in this moment. And even if you're not feeling like that's true for you, that's okay too. How you are feeling is always a valid expression of what you're going through now. And if you're feeling any challenges, remind yourself that this too shall pass. So you're certainly welcome to be here. I hope this video is a safe space for you. And let's dive right into it. This chapter has been translated in this version as the divine and demonic natures. This chapter is going to be a refresher for me to understand this binary. In my personal life, although I have benefited from many parts of this excellent scripture, I have a hard time reconciling how the divine and demonic fits into my worldview. Personally, I tend to choose to see things all in terms of the divine, and what another person may call as demonic I simply see as a place in which the divine has yet to really come out, to blossom, as though it's all a process of the divine, just some parts are earlier in their journey, and those parts we might call as bad or evil, and other parts that we call as good or divine, they just have yet to come out, they have had the time to come out compared to the other parts which haven't had the time or energy or love to blossom. So I would recommend that when describing or when listening to these descriptions of the demonic versus the divine, try to imagine not pairs of opposites, but a spectrum in which all things are becoming more and more divine, and the demonic is just very early in its journey. Without further ado, we'll start off with some commentary by our translator. The Bhagavad Gita is basically a how-to manual for living a perfect life. And to live a perfect life, we need to develop the qualities that make our lives perfect. But before developing those traits, we need to be aware of the traits that we should strive to develop and the ones we should strive to move away from. Lord Krishna has made our task very simple by telling us exactly what divine qualities we need to have in order to live an ideal life in this material world, as well as the demonic characteristics we must escape at all costs. So let's see exactly what those divine and demonic attributes are. So, Lord Krishna begins to Arjuna. Fearlessness, purity of heart, knowledge, steadfastness in yoga, charity, and control over the senses, performance of religious sacrifice, study of the holy scriptures, austerity, straightforwardness, non-injury, truthfulness, absence of anger, renunciation, peacefulness, aversion to slander, kindness to beings, absence of greed, gentleness, modesty, absence of restlessness, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, purity, absence of hatred, absence of conceit. These attributes belong to one who is born to attain divine nature, O descendant of Bharata. There, that's the list. If you want to explore that list, you're more than welcome to think about some of those words. Maybe share one in the comments if you're up for that, if you're awake enough. So one of them that you feel that you've been succeeding at befriending and becoming, and maybe you might want to share two of those, and then maybe one that you're having a little difficulty with, like two roses and a thorn. Next, the list of the demonic. It's rather short. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, and also harshness and ignorance. These attributes belong to one who is born to attain demonic nature, O Partha. The divine attributes are for liberation. The demonic attributes are considered to be for bondage. Do not grieve, O Pandava, for you are born with divine attributes. There are two kinds of created beings in this world, the divine and the demonic. The divine have been spoken of at great length. Hear from me, O Partha, of the demonic. And I would like to emphasize my understanding that this isn't a binary that separates two classes of human beings. For example, we all have the ability to break free from bondage and strive for liberation. The Hindu cosmology is very clear that nothing in this world is permanent, and the status of beings are not either. We always have the ability to go from demonic to divine, and unfortunately, also vice versa. Consider these forces within yourself rather than signs to look for in others. We should always strive to look for the divine qualities in each other, but look for I guess in this case the vocabulary would be the demonic forces. I probably wouldn't translate the word as demonic, but that is what our translator has chosen. Anyway. People of demonic nature know not what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither purity nor good conduct nor truthfulness exist in them. They say the universe is a lie, and it has no basis of morality. It has no divinity. It is brought about not by a systematic causal sequence, but by passionate desire for union with the opposite sex. What else could be the cause? Holding this view, the ruined souls of little intelligence engage in fierce and destructive activities harmful for the world. Taking refuge in insatiable lust, being absorbed in vanity, pride, and conceit, holding evil ideas due to delusion, they act in impure motivation. Hedonists, sounds like Krishna is describing, fully engrossed in immeasurable cares, worldly and bodily cares and concerns, which have an end in death, regarding gratification of desires as the highest goal of life, feeling sure that this is all, being bound by hundreds of shackles of hope, desire, giving themselves to lust and anger, they strive to amass wealth through dishonest means for sensual enjoyments. This has been gained by me today. This object of desire I shall gain tomorrow. This is already there with me, and this wealth shall also be mine. That enemy has been killed by me already. I shall kill others too. I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am rich and well-born. Who else is there like me? I will perform sacrifices to please the gods gods and demand desire fulfillment from them. I will do charity for the same reason. I will rejoice. They speak like this, thus they are deluded by ignorance. Or they think like that at least. Bewildered by numerous thoughts of desire and fulfillment, entangled in the snare of delusion, and engrossed in the enjoyment of sense gratification, they sink into a foul hell. And by the way, this is not to speak of what happens in their next life. When Krishna is saying a foul hell, they're talking about the present life. They've made a hell for themselves. Self-conceited, stubborn, intoxicated by pride and wealth, they perform sacrifice in name only, with ostentation, without following the scriptural injunctions, given to ego, power, arrogance, lust, and anger. These malicious people hate me in the bodies of their own and also of others. I hurl forever those cruel haters, the worst among humanity in the material world, the evildoers, verily into demonic wombs in their coming lives. By the way, again, I'm not sure demonic is a good translation. We've discussed this at length before, but in the Hindu cosmology, what it really means to be born into a lower womb is just to be born into an animal that has to go through some survival situation, literally, like having to be born as a fish or as an antelope or as some animal. And nature is beautiful, there's no doubt about that, but it's also really scary, and a lot of the creatures live their whole life basically in survival mode. And it's not a punishment per se, but it's the lesson that many of us need to go through sometimes in order to really appreciate what truly matters. That covering our basic needs should be sufficient to live a happy life. We spend so much time in past lives as animals trying to just get enough food to just make it to the next day. And we're grateful when we have enough food in our tummies, when we have a family to take care of, when we have a tree to sleep under. But yet when we get to our human incarnation, we often forget all that and try to amass pleasure and comfort and million-dollar homes and luxury items, and we're no longer grateful for the fact that our simple, basic needs are met. And it's for the same reason that we feel animals are truly divine, that we say that the equivalent of hell in the Hindu cosmology is really not that bad, because all souls are divine. These souls just sometimes have to go through some lessons to realize aspects of its true nature that it has forgotten. Krishna continues with some very direct vocabulary. Mind you, this has also been translated in a more religious context in this book. There are less religious translations of this scripture. Entering demonic wombs, being born in demonic species, birth after birth. The fools, the ignorant ones, not attaining me, O Kaunteya, reach even lower conditions, species. This gate of hell, destructive of the self, degrading the soul to the lowest species, is of three kinds: lust, anger, and greed. Therefore, one should abandon these three. O Kaunteya, a person who is free from these three gates to darkness strives for the good of the souls. Thus they attain the supreme goal, the eternal association with the divine. They who, ignoring the regulations of the scriptures, acts under the impulse of lust neither attains perfection of human existence, nor happiness, nor the supreme goal. Therefore, the scriptures are your guide in determining what should be done and what should not be done. You should act here knowing the regulations declared in the scriptures. That's the end of the chapter. Just a short one, only 24 verses. Some commentary from our translator to end. This chapter is very significant from a spiritual seeker's perspective in that it contains comprehensive lists of traits they can strive to develop and avoid in order to make themselves fit for liberation. This chapter acts as a compass for every yogi, and anyone who reads it on a regular basis will never be lost in their spiritual pursuits. It is not difficult to notice that most, if not all, the divine and demonic characteristics stated by the Lord are already well known to us as good and bad, respectively. Our God-given heart already understands which one is a desirable quality and which one is not. It's only that our deluded minds don't always allow us to prioritize the positive qualities above the negative ones, and the kind Lord is well aware of this. So, in order to make our lives easier, He enumerates all of those qualities for us so that we are never perplexed and our thoughts are never deceived. Therefore, we should strive to cultivate the desirous qualities enumerated by Krishna and try to avoid the undesirable ones, lust, anger, and greed in particular, as these have been defined as the Lord as the 3 gates to darkness. These are the 3 worst tendencies in our hearts that lead us away from the divine, so we must avoid falling for them at all costs. Krishna has made our task as simple as possible for us. We now have no justification for not being able to find freedom from this dreadful existence. If we fail despite knowing all of this, the blame can only be ours. So that chapter is very direct and uses some terms that maybe be wake-up calls. But I really want to clarify that it's very easy in highly religious contexts to use these words to create an us versus them mentality, that we are the good ones and others are the bad ones. But we shouldn't think like this, especially not as Krishna teaches us. We should really be thinking of all other beings as divine and seeing ourselves as demonic. But not in a way that makes us feel judgmental to ourselves in a negative way. In a way that makes us feel like we have so much to work towards, always moving up, and that everyone around us has something that we can learn from. That way, each interaction becomes a positive one for us. When we translate these words into English, it's very important that we understand the context and culture in which they come from. In our Western culture, we use the English language as it has come from colonialism, unfortunately. And colonialism and religion have had a very problematic relationship, and with that, it has brung an association of religious terms into a very polarizing light. So we have to put in extra work when understanding this in English to clarify that these terms are not meant to divide or repress, especially ourselves too, and that all of these terms are given with love. And if there's any way in which these words don't make sense to us, just leave them aside. We're not meant to parrot the words that have yet to resonate within our hearts. The words that have yet to be brought out in our own experience in a way that ushers in love and understanding. So I only want you to relate and connect with the words of this and any chapter in a way that brings out the best for you and those around you too. Thank you very much for listening. We're very close to ending this scripture that we have been reading over the course of a year now, and I look forward to reading more scriptures with you in the future. Thank you very much for listening again. Hare Krishna and Namaste.